Welcome, everyone. Today is Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025, and this is a regular meeting of the City of the Asbury Park Zoning Board of Adjustment. Chairman Avalone, can you please call this meeting to order?
I'd be happy to. This meeting is being held in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the Coaster and Asbury Park Press by publication of an annual meeting notice and posted on the municipal bulletin board and municipal website. All notices are on file with the board's secretary. Official action may be taken on the following matters before this board. And I ask everyone with a cell phone to please mute it for the duration of this meeting. And this meeting is being recorded by APTV. Roll call, please.
Wendy Glassman is absent this evening. Daniel Harris.
Here.
Russell Lewis.
Here.
Jill Potter.
Here.
Natalie Passerini.
Here.
JJ Hall.
Here.
Vice Chair Scully.
Here.
Chairman Avalone.
Here. All right, we have two applications tonight. The first, 807 Summerfield Avenue. Mr. Karras, welcome back.
Mr. Karras, you're the applicant as well. It's self-representation, correct?
Correct. They have to be entity, but I have an interest in the entity.
All right, so you've got to be sworn. Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony about giving this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Andrew Karras,
Okay.
here on behalf of the applicant, 807 Summerfield Development LLC, of which I also am an owner, part owner of that.
Okay. I'll swear in my staff as well. Please raise your right hands. You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony about giving this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
You do.
Please state your names for the record and your affiliation with the board.
Donna Miller, board planner.
Jerry Frida, board engineer.
Okay, thank you.
Amen. What we're here for tonight is very simple. It's an interpretation of a portion of the Main Street redevelopment plan. 807 Summerfield Avenue, lot 2501, lots 2 and 3 is within the Main Street redevelopment area. In turn, the Main Street redevelopment plan governs that property as it does all the properties within the Main Street redevelopment area. The reason I'm here is there is an interpretation by the zoning department that states that one of the sections with regard to implementation of the plan requires that any time that you have a non-residential use that is different than what a proposed non-residential use is, you're required to get site plan approval. In other words, if you have a retail store that is existing or had been in a particular location, you want to bring in a restaurant, according to the interpretation by the zoning office, you would have to go get site plan approval from the planning board. However, that is completely contrary to what is stated by the clear and concise language of the redevelopment plan. If I may read it for you. On page 64, section 9 of the Main Street redevelopment plan, it reads as follows, and I quote, prior to the issuance of the building or zoning permit, site plan review and approval shall be required for all new construction, development, redevelopment, or expansion of the following uses, all non-residential uses, except when the non-residential use is proposed in an existing non-residential space, or when the establishment of the non-residential use does not alter any site conditions. So there's an exception. There's actually two exceptions under the redevelopment plan for which site plan review is not required. Number one, when non-residential uses are proposed in an existing non-residential space. Commercial going into a commercial space. Doesn't say it has to be the same. Or, number two, when the establishment of the non-residential use does not alter any site conditions. Now, the position of the zoning office is that you have to satisfy both of those sections, or both of those provisions. In other words, they're reading the or as in and as a conjunction. However, basic statutory interpretation, when you have an or in a statute, it is in the disjunctive. In the rider that was submitted with this application, Cites the Appellate Division case, State versus County of Ocean, 469 New Jersey Super 529, Appellate Division case 2021. States, or is a disjunctive particle indicating an alternative. So it's either or. If you find that a non-residential use is going into a non-residential space, you do not need site plan approval. It is that clear. Notably, the language that we find here is also found in the CBD redevelopment. The same language. You don't require for restaurants going into a retail space, if an office is going, all permitted uses, I'm not talking about non-permitted uses, permitted uses. If it's a permitted use, commercial, going into a permitted use or space commercial, you simply don't need site plan approval. If you did, you're going to create a nightmare before the planning board. And that was the reason behind this. To allow for these commercial uses to go in without site plan approval, the cost, the time, the effort, the labor, to simply have a commercial space go into a building that is existing. It's that simple. The interpretation should be, if you have a non-residential use going into a non-residential space, as clearly stated within the statute, you do not need site plan approval. That's it.
I think it's best to hear the opposing side, Donna. Maybe you can summarize exactly why the zoning officer denied this.
Well, and again, I want to clarify, we're here for an interpretation of the words in the redevelopment plan. I don't know specifically what was decided by who about what thing that Mr. Karras is referring to. But in generalization, I agree with his point. If you have like for like, a non-residential use occupying a space in a building that had a non-residential use in the redevelopment area, the first step is, yes, that's, if it's on the list of permitted uses, you don't
Which
need
I understand
site
it
plan
is a
approval.
permitted use, is that
But,
correct?
Again, I don't know exactly what the use is or what the prior use was. But if you're talking about one of the many listed permitted uses,
And there are many.
and there are many, the first step is, yes, is the use permitted? Yes. Are you changing the building? No. Okay. Through those series of steps, no, you would not need site plan approval. Are we ready for my however? So one of the other things that the zoning office evaluates when they're considering these, who's going to occupy the space, is what is the parking requirement for that use? And is it more than what the prior use was? Or would there be an increase in the required parking for the building in order to accommodate that new use? And the plan is very limited in the number of uses that it describes for how much parking is assigned to whatever use. And it is possible that the intended use isn't on that list. I don't know what the original use in the space was. I don't know if they're occupying the same amount of space. So there's a whole calculation that has to go on in the zoning office to determine whether the parking is compliant. And if it's not, you need relief. And the process in the plan says the board can grant deviations from the plan as part of site plan approval.
Planning-
I'm sorry, did I say zoning board?
No, you can say any board.
Oh, the planning board, yes. The board is authorized and empowered to grant relief in the form of a C variance. Can't do D variances, no use, no height, expansion of non-conforming use, that's not allowed. But if it's a C variance, it can do it as part of site plan approval. And that's also in the land use law, that planning boards are empowered to grant certain variances only in conjunction with the site plan approval. Otherwise, they have to go to zoning board. But as far as the plan is concerned, the planning board is empowered to grant variances.
So are
for
you
site plan
saying
approval.
that if the use differs in this particular redevelopment warehouse or zoned property,
If
right,
the parking is more
it's going to
intensive,
trigger a site plan?
Just the use, right?
not the use. If the proposed use increases the parking requirement for the site that can't be accomplished on site, you need a variance. And the plan says the board can grant a variance as long as it's part of site plan approval
But
or
yet,
subdivision.
if it's part of the Main Street redevelopment, right, are you saying then everything is going to require a site plan?
No, not everything. We have businesses go in all the time. They evaluate whether there's more parking needed for the new use or not. And if it doesn't, they get their zoning permit, CO, mercantile license, and they go in. Half my life last year, zoning permits for swapping one use out for another one. You do the parking calculation, and if it's fine, then it's great. If they need us, if they want bigger signs, then we say, no, you might need a variance. They would have to come in for site plan approval. So they usually change the plan so that they comply, because they don't want to do site plan approval.
So the zoning office's position is that they did that analysis and a wellness center is going to require more parking.
From, again, the background history, I don't know all the details, but it's my understanding that the parking calculation is what's triggering the site plan approval, not the fact that it's a different use.
However, that's not what the redevelopment plan says. The redevelopment plan does not say, well, if a non-residential use goes into a non-residential use, you don't need site plan approval unless you need parking, or there's a more intensive requirement for parking. That's not what it says.
No,
You have to read, under statutory interpretation, you read the plain language. If it is concise and clear, you have to enforce it as written. And what it states is there's an exception when a non-residential use is proposed in an existing non-residential.
What does the redevelopment attorney say?
It hasn't said anything. I reached out.
yeah, it's not his jurisdiction.
Hasn't said
It's your
anything.
jurisdiction. This is an interpretation, zoning board.
But it does not say that you need site plan review when a non-residential use is proposed in a non-residential space and it increases parking. That's not what it says. You have to read the language of what is stated in.
The use is not the only thing that's regulated by the plan.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
We're not going to go back and
Alright.
forth. and then
This
you'll
is
be-
basic statutory interpretation. What they're doing is they're taking the second part of this that says, well, you're altering the site condition because you need more parking. But that's not what the statute says or the ordinance says. It's an either or. Very simple. If it's non-residential going into a non-residential space, you don't consider parking, we're allowing you to do it because that's exactly what it says. You can't just pull things out of anywhere and say, oh no, there's parking that may be affected. May parking be affected? Sure, it may be, but it doesn't matter because this is what the redevelopment plan provides for. No different than the CBD redevelopment plan. No different when you had Garden State Equality come in here. They didn't have to go for site plan approval, it was a bank before that. It's a different use. You have the bridal shop on Cookman Ave that just went in where it used to be a hair salon. They didn't have to come in for site plan approval, different use, different requirement. Same exact language that you find in the CBD, you find here. There's no requirement. You read the language as stated, and that's it. You don't make up things, you don't bring things into it, you don't add things that are not part of the ordinance. That's not proper statutory interpretation. This is basic statutory interpretation.
So because it's non-residential, we just go forward, that's what you're saying?
If it's non-residential, going into non-residential, that's it. You don't need site plan approval. It's that simple.
Thank you.
So Donna, can you explain how the parking calculation kicks in? Like where the zoning officer?
So when the zoning office reviews a use for a certificate of zoning compliance or zoning permit, they don't just look at the use in a vacuum by itself as the only thing that's being applied for. because the plan regulates more than the use. In fact, all uses are required to provide off-street parking in the plan. The plan has provisions for how to calculate that, do alternative provisions for it, because it acknowledges we don't want to have just a lot of off-street parking. Parking lots are not viewed kindly, right? We want to have buildings in the redevelopment area. Those are the things that generate tax ratables, bring people into town, serve the community. So we have architectural design standards. We have sign regulations. There's a whole document full of regulations that go beyond just the use.
That the zoning officer looks at with every
For every application.
application.
Do they have a complying sign? Are they doing building modifications? Not necessarily the footprint, but facade alterations, right? Because there are regulations about that. Can't close up windows. Don't want to close up storefront windows. So we have regulations about that. The redevelopment plan says anytime you deviate from one of these requirements, on page 64, right in the next column about the site plan approval, it talks about the type of relief that can be granted. So like I said, can't be a D variance, can't be for use, can't be for height, can't be for expansion or non-convenience, can't be conditional use. So only C variances. And then on page 64, I'm sorry, on page 65, it says, the planning board, when acting upon an application for preliminary or minor subdivision approval or preliminary site plan approval, shall have the power to grant such exceptions from the requirements of subdivision or site plan approval and design standards contained in this plan. So I don't know how you get approval for those deviations if you don't have a site plan.
Because it says it in here. It says when you're making, it says it's an or, all right? And
No, not there.
When you look at the language, again, we're getting beyond.
Andy, I agree with you that
But
occupying
you're
a
saying that
space,
if it requires more parking, that's not what it says.
that part doesn't, no.
Exactly. That's my point.
But
It doesn't
and-
say that. That's something the zoning
I'm
office.
getting confused.
So I hope I can clear this up.
It doesn't say that. That's my point.
I don't know what the zoning office denied your application for. We're not talking about an appeal here. We are talking
An
about the
interpretation.
strict language of the interpretation. And I agree with you. That paragraph says what you say it says. I'm saying that's not an absolute to being when site plan approval is applied.
To me, it's an absolute. That's what I'm asking the interpretation, irrespective of the use going in. If it requires more parking or it doesn't require more parking. You interpret the language as stated.
Donna,
When we talk about
one second, Mr. Karas. What's triggering the parking calculation?
The plan requires all uses to provide parking. There are ways of providing that parking. There's ways of calculating the parking. Part of the plan
But why
says
is
certain
it being
types of
triggered for
uses
this
have
particular
to
application,
provide this
Donna?
much parking.
Why is it being triggered for this particular application?
It
not
happens
on the-
for all applications.
So you're
When we
saying
calculated-
that the Garden State Equality...
I don't know what happened with the Garden State Equality, but I can talk about lots of other applications in
But we need
in
some
both the
type of...
MSRP and the CBD that I personally reviewed and issued zoning permits for last year. Applicant comes in, mercantile license. I want to operate business in the same. What is it? Okay. How much square footage? Are you taking the whole floor areas? Whole ground floor? Yes. Okay. What's the use? Basically, a restaurant.
So are you
Okay.
saying the use is triggering the parking calculation or not?
Absolutely. Parking calculation is based on the use and the square footage of that use.
Compared to the previous use.
We compare that to the
Compare it.
prior use to determine whether more parking is required by the new use. Because not every use has the same parking requirement. Office is not the same as restaurant.
Yeah, if, I get what you're saying, but if the approved uses are many, and one of them is professional services or personal services, if the use is approved, the statute does not say you have to look at what was there and compare that to what's going in. So as long as it's an approved use that's going in, it's a one-for-one.
It's not the only thing that's regulated.
But according to the statute, that is what's the only
Not
thing
the
that's
statute.
regulated.
I don't know what you're talking
But you're saying the parking is being triggered by the use, Donna.
Yeah.
So if that's the trigger effect, then you're saying that the use will trigger the parking.
Yeah.
But if it's an approved use, and you're saying we have to look at what was there compared to what's going in.
Everything we look at, from every application that comes in, whether it's for a mercantile license or an actual site plan approval, we evaluate the use and all of its requirements. Does the building fit on the lot, right? Bulk standards, coverage requirements, off-street parking.
But we have a number of buildings on Main Street that
Right.
have a lot of through traffic, if you will, coming and going. And
Yeah.
they don't have parking lots, so how do they,
Because generally, the square footage doesn't change for the use that went out and is coming in, and the uses are similar enough that the parking requirement for those uses is the same, retail for retail.
yeah, but this is non-residential for non-residential.
It's not. So under commercial uses, we have convenience stores, retail services, sound recording studios, rehearsal space, and light industrial. In the parking table, those all have the same parking requirement. That's a lot of variation that you can go from one, in the same space, one use for another use, and the parking requirement's not gonna go up, right? If I take out a retail store and I put in a light industrial, those have the same parking requirement. So it's a one-for-one swap. No site plan approval, no parking variance. But if I want to change out a retail store for, what's this higher one? For a restaurant, the restaurant requires 15 off-street parking spaces, but the retail only requires 2. They'd be bounced for a parking variance.
Are we talking about a restaurant?
I'm sorry?
Are we talking about a restaurant?
No,
Okay,
But this is
But-
the interpretation we're
but this
looking
is
for.
what we're talking about. We evaluate what the use requires under this
But it-
plan. And some of those uses have a higher parking requirement.
So if we say
So
that
if
this
you
needs a
have an
site plan-
office and they move out and you want to put in a restaurant, even though it's the same floor area, the parking requirement for the restaurant is higher. So they would need the parking variance.
We're not talking about a restaurant.
If
I'm-
we say we
But it
need
could be.
a site plan,
It could be.
this gets
Okay.
kicked to planning board.
Would go to planning board.
And if we say it doesn't need a site plan, they can proceed and file an
This has nothing to
application.
do
We're-
to specific.
We're looking for an
I know,
interpretation.
I know that. But if
In
we,
that
s-
effect, in that effect.
Yeah.
in effect, right, like, if we say it doesn't need to go to the planning board.
Because
then
it's
they
a
can
use for
proceed
use.
With
They-
an
they-
application.
With any tenant we're looking to bring
But they've
in.
already been told that they have a permitted use. Is that correct, Donna?
I don't know.
Now, anything we're looking to put in there is a
Again,
permitted use. We're talking about permitted
They're
use.
saying the point of their
So
application
then-
is they want to
then-
do a
Then what are
permitted
we
use.
arguing here? We don't even know what the use is.
Because it's mainly.
You still have to
for-
talk about generalization
This
and
is the problem that we're
interpretation.
having.
We're looking at an iceberg. We don't know what's under the water.
No, this is the problem. Let me explain the issue that we're having. And this is all up and down Main Street. It's the same thing. Anybody that owns a property. If you have to get site plan approval for a tenant, you're the owner of a property. Every time you're looking to bring somebody in that may have a restaurant that was a retail, and you have to come in for site plan approval, you're losing that tenant. You're gonna kill the entire Main Street. If you have to go through site plan approval, the cost of going through site plan approval, cost of getting a site plan done, getting an architect, getting an engineer.
But this is not, this board does not
No,
decide
but
that.
I'm just saying, this is the reason that I'm looking for the interpretation, is that it doesn't say you need to do all that. What it says is, you don't have to do any of that, as long as it's non-residential. It doesn't say, well, non-residential, but you look at parking. That's not what the ordinance says. It says if it's non-residential, going into non-residential. All under the Main Street redevelopment plan. You do not need site plan approval, irrespective of what the parking is. That's what it says in the ordinance. It's that simple. They're adding language in there that doesn't exist.
It is in there.
Yeah, where
Don't
does
say
it
it doesn't
speak
exist, it's
about
on the same page.
parking?
So I want to ask you a question. So in section 7, which has the list of uses by the different districts and the bulk requirements and the off-street parking requirements, you're saying everything below uses doesn't apply? If it's an existing building?
It's an existing building and it's a permitted use going into,
So none of these other requirements apply?
which requirements are you talking about?
In this
The
table
parking?
on 39 and 40 of the plan, proposed land uses and building requirements by character district.
No, as long as you have a non-residential use going into an existing building, that's
And
non-residential.
that's in the
You're doing
redevelopment plan
it.
language already?
So
If-
section 7 of the redevelopment plan contains the proposed land uses, building requirements, and design standards, which supersede the regular land development
But
regulations.
it says it in there, when you're changing site conditions, yeah, you go in for site plan approval. But that's not what we're talking about. I agree. And it says it in that section,
So how
if
do
you're
you-
altering site conditions.
How do you comply with these requirements?
Because it
Without-
says it here. All non-residential uses, except when the non-residential use is proposed in existing non-residential space, or when the establishment of the non-residential use does not alter any site condition. If you're altering those site conditions, then it triggers site plan. But if you're not altering the site condition, it doesn't. You're not changing the parking lot. It says it in here. You need site plan approval if you're constructing or altering parking areas or driveways. You're not touching any parking area. If it's simply a non-residential tenant going into a non-residential space, you don't need site plan approval.
But it seems like it's mutually exclusive, and if we say in the interpretation that, hey, forget about parking, it blows the whole floodgates open for everybody to just come in and do what they want. And that's not the purpose.
Well, no, it doesn't say what they want. If you're
To a
changing,
degree, yeah.
like what? When you say what you want?
Well, you're saying as long as it's a, their
Permitted use.
A permitted use going into a.
Right, as long as it's another permitted use, regardless of the use, it's okay. But
That's,
as we were talking about a retail store versus a restaurant, if that were the case, in any case, because it's an interpretation, that shouldn't be allowed in the ordinance.
but that's what it says.
So,
But
no, let me
there-
clarify
there's
that.
That's what it says.
Because I agree with Andy. If you're not changing the building and it's a permitted use, that's not a trigger for site plan approval. What I'm saying is a trigger for site plan approval is if you need a deviation from the standards. So one of these things in this table on page 39 and 40, and most of it pertains to, yeah, are you altering the building? Setbacks, coverage, building height. If you're not doing any of that, that's great. But there's, the final thing in this table is off-street parking. So you have to evaluate the use for its parking requirement. If it doesn't comply with the parking requirement, what happens?
But that's where I'm saying it seems like it's more
You
of a
have an
checklist
exception.
than-
It says-
You're saying, so you're saying parking, off-street parking requirement in the plan doesn't apply to existing buildings in the area?
Not if you have a non-residential use going into a non-residential space. If you're altering the building, you're reconstructing the building, redeveloping the building, yeah, then it would. But if you're not redeveloping, and when you look at the plan, it talks a lot about redeveloping all these properties. All right? And I agree, if you're redeveloping this site, yeah, you have to come in for site plan. I do it all the time. All the properties that we've redeveloped in the downtown on Main Street, in the waterfront, come in all the time, because you're redeveloping. But not when you simply have a tenant coming in that is a non-residential tenant, a permitted use, into an existing non-residential space.
So here's my concern, right? We're being asked to interpret this plan. And we don't have the plan, we don't have the full plan in front of us. We weren't there, right? We don't know the legislative intent, whoever drew this up, assuming it was the council. So we can only go by the facts. The facts to state that if it's a permitted use, and it says restaurant, retail store, personal services, anything beyond that as far as parking, in my opinion, is an assumption. And you're assuming that a wellness center is gonna require more parking than what's there. Wait, let me finish. But we don't know that because we don't have any other facts. So the only facts that we can go on is a permitted use, non-residential to non-residential. And my reading of it is that there is an exception for that.
So, hang on.
Wait, but let me just
All right.
let me just hammer my one point. Anything beyond that to say, well, the non-residential to non-residential is going to trigger parking. As long as it's a permitted use, you're then assuming that it's going to do that, and we have no facts to base that assumption on. And therefore, we should not be making our opinion, in my opinion.
I agree
based on
100%.
So I just want to clarify. I understand we're talking, you have to take generalities here. We don't have a specific.
But we're not going
use
to
in
do
area.
with the generalities,
No,
though,
So,
Donna. We're
but-
telling you that we cannot cope with that. We're not going to make a decision on generalities.
That's what an
No, but
interpretation is.
you have to make an interpretation.
But
of
we
the
have nothing to
ordinance.
go on, Mr. Karras.
He's telling you the specific language. What is the specific language?
But we were told there's a permitted use, correct?
It doesn't matter. We're talking about an example, a hypothetical, a permitted use. Occupies a space that was occupied by a permitted use.
Yeah,
And I agree with him. Yeah, if that's all it is, and it's one for one, you wouldn't have to go for site plan approval. The city does it all the time. Look all up and down Main Street. Every time a new business moves in, they didn't come for site plan approval. There was a calculation made to determine that the space complies. The new use complies with the space that's there. So,
But aren't you?
I realize it's
Right.
Yeah, the
it's kind of two things. I agree with him. You're not
interpretation
changing the
you have to look
building and the use is the
at,
same.
irrespective of
Yeah,
the
that
part.
doesn't mean site
You
plan
look at the
approval.
plain
So they're
language.
like-
And if the plain language says, doesn't matter if it's more required parking or less required parking.
Do you see our confusion, Mr.
So-
Karras?
Yeah, but I'm trying to alleviate it. That's what I'm saying. What I'm
But
saying
you've got everybody
So-
from attorneys
but
to
what you're
all of us
really
being
asking-
confused.
it's very
You
simple.
make it out like that.
If it's a non-permitted use, irrespective of what the non-permitted use is, when you read the ordinance, going into a space, all right, for which allows non-permitted use, or was permitted use, non-residential, going into a space where it was a permitted use, non-residential, all right? You don't need site plan, irrespective of whether the parking calculations are more intense or less intense. What the ordinance says, it doesn't say look at the parking calculations. It simply says you don't need site plan, irrespective of the parking calculations. It's a non-residential use going into a non-residential use that's permitted. That's it. That's it. You don't go beyond that. That's what it says.
And I disagree, because it does go beyond that. On the next page, it talks about all of the other reasons you would go for site plan approval when you have a deviation from the standards.
this-
Because
that's
all
it.
uses have to comply with all of the standards in the plan that are applicable to that use. So again, signs, right? Any building changes. If it's no building changes, it doesn't apply.
But you're
You
not-
can't say,
you're not reading this
you
correctly.
can't say
You're
the
not-
site plan, the requirement for site plan approval obviates the requirement for off-street parking elsewhere in the plan.
It does, because that's what it says.
No, it doesn't.
Read it.
Jack, do you have a thought on this?
Well, let's take the opposite. What is the purpose of that language? If it's gonna be tied into a parking, what's the purpose of the language? When would it come into effect?
You'd have to have an apple for apple. So if you had
It doesn't say that.
right. So if you had a
You're
retail
going beyond
store
the
that
language
sold,
to interpret what's the
Right.
plain language of the
Right. which would almost, again, not to.
But we're adding
Not to give you an
verbiage then,
ordinance.
right? To what's in the ordinance.
If you say you gotta add, it depends upon parking, you're adding verbiage that doesn't exist.
I agree with that, Mr. Karras.
So we should just accept simple language that's being presented by you. That's what you're saying, right?
Correct.
And on the other side, they're saying we should look deeper into this thing. But there's so many variables, especially here in Asbury Park. As far as parking is concerned, you can open it up and lose your parking spaces to another business. Okay, and that's what I'm just looking at common sense. Okay? You can use your parking to another business that has nothing to do with you. So by keeping it simple, we make it equal for everyone with non-residential uses. Is that what you're saying?
I agree.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not sure I understood that, but. So, again, using your logic, if a use comes in to occupy an existing space and they don't have a compliant sign, what happens? They get to put their sign up anyway?
There's language that says, yeah.
Says
Look at
what?
the next
Says what?
paragraph. Prior to the issuance of the building or zoning permit, site plan review and approval shall be required for changes or structural alterations to the facade of a building or structure, the following exceptions. Any change in existing or addition of new signs, awnings, or exterior lighting. It accounts for that. There's a specific provision that deals with that.
That just says,
If you're changing it, it says it there, so it deals with it. But we're not talking about that. We're not talking about somebody with signage.
Jack, how do we move forward?
I think
wait, I have another question.
Unless there's more evidence that's gonna come in.
Because they're just going to go back
you
and
make a
forth.
decision. You take what's done and you make a decision. Unless there's more evidence that's not in the record, that has to be vented, that's fine. If not, then make your decision.
Mr. Parasite, and you're writer, I think it's page 2. It would be the second full paragraph. The last sentence there, it says, the mere occupancy of a new non-residential tenant as permitted use within the building does not equate to an alteration of the site conditions.
Correct.
So you're basically saying that if it's a non-residential to a non-residential, regardless of the parking, it's approved.
Exactly.
And that language is from the statute that I just read? It's the page 2 of your rider, second full paragraph, last sentence. Starts with the mere occupancy.
Fourth sentence.
That's his language.
Third and last paragraph on
The paragraph starts with notably the second exception.
Right. My position, independent of the first exemption in the redevelopment, would also exempt if there's no alteration of any site conditions.
That's your language though, that's not from the statute.
Well, actually, what the statute says, it provides 2 exemptions. It says, first exemption, where non-residential use proposed in an existing non-residential space. That's one. Or, so it's an either or when the establishment of non-residential use does not alter any site conditions. So under either of those circumstances, you don't need site plan approval.
Okay, thank you.
That seems very straightforward.
And I agree with it.
You're not helping us, Donna.
I know. My point is, that only pertains to use. That language is talking about uses. It's not talking about any of the other requirements in the plan. There are standards that go beyond just the use.
Then why have that language?
And they have requirements, and it says, if you deviate from any of the other requirements, the planning board can grant those deviations. You treat them as C variances. And then it goes on for another 5 paragraphs about that on page 65. Because, just like under the municipal land use law, if you have a single family dwelling that you want to build on a lot in this town, and if you get it to fit in the setbacks and lot coverage, building coverage, and you provide the required off-street parking, you can get a permit without having to go to a board.
Well, first, and 1 and 2 family homes are treated completely different by the municipal land use law. You can't equate that.
I'm talking about deviations from the requirements
You're
of the
basically
ordinance.
obviating what the language says. You're
I'm
saying the
talking about
language is not.
deviations from the requirements of a regulation. The plan requires off-street parking for all uses. If you deviate from that requirement, you need relief from the board.
So in other words, hypothetically, we say, sure, we agree with the interpretation, he still has to go.
If a deviation-
If there is a trigger for parking, then he still would have to comply.
Yeah.
hypothetically. we
Not
say,
if you go, not if you address it in his favor, they wouldn't.
Well, see, that's my concern, is because then everybody thereafter, that interpretation means all systems go, and there's really no
No regulations
recourse.
apply to uses.
But if we say, hey, you know, as long as it's permitted, sure, this interpretation stands, but if you trigger something else, then we need to account for those changes, otherwise we exacerbate the issue of parking, which everybody hates. So we can talk about that we didn't know what the council was intending, but clearly, in my opinion, I'm gonna make an assumption here that they did this to make sure parking was talked about and was part of the factor here.
If parking were irrelevant, they wouldn't have parking
But we
standards.
have, Mr. Karras has no control. As long as he sticks to the letter of the law, he has no control. No, let me talk, please don't interrupt me. He has no control over the parking of that entire area, okay? So we're holding, what we're doing, we're holding him responsible for something that he has no control over. I don't think that was the letter of the law. I don't think that was meant. They're just making a general statement which will apply to all non-residential businesses in that area. I think we're making it much more complicated than it has to be.
I'm sorry,
So-
Dan, can you clarify that?
I just made it simple. I'm not gonna.
No, you said over the area.
When I talk about the downtown area where the business is taking place, okay? And you can have things taking place 5 blocks away from them. Say there's a concert, okay?
Yeah.
Or there's a street fair. That's going to affect his business. He has no control over that.
Sure, right.
And I'm not going to sit here and penalize him for something that he has no control over, because I don't believe that's the letter of the law. But that's an extenuating circumstance. What we're talking about are basic things that happen in the operation of that business in that area. And that's what the law is saying. And I sit here most of the time and I have nothing to say. I get tired of things being made more complicated than they have to be made. And this is very simple.
Jack, can you,
So let me
can you
clarify,
repeat again?
so,
Wait a
Hold
minute.
on, hold on.
Can you repeat again? How do, 'cause I feel like we could go back and forth in their sides here. How do we move forward with moving this application forward? Do we need a motion to
Yeah,
say
you
that
need a
that
motion
the board
to-
interpretation is
Whoever wants
he
to
does
move
not
it,
need to go
that
in front of the board, or he does?
Agrees with the applicant, or if it fails to carry, a motion to agree with the position of the city on the interpretation. One or the other is going to prevail. One or the other is going to get a majority vote.
Right. All right. I'll make a motion that.
Wait.
Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna jump to it anyway.
First, we have to see if there's anybody in the audience.
No.
No?
No.
Not-
This is not an application for development, this is a pure
Oh.
interpretation by the board.
Okay.
No public notice is required. There's certainly no public
Okay.
input, because it's your call.
Okay, so maybe we should have some deliberation first.
Yes, you should.
Yeah. Before there's a motion.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So, anybody want to speak up?
I will agree with the other member on the board. I think the plain reading of the statute, if it's an approved use and it's a non-residential for non-residential, I think we're adding assumptions and adding language and interpretation beyond the plain reading of the statute if we say that he's got to go in front of the planning board.
I have to agree.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the end of
I
that.
think based on the plain reading of the statute, if it's an approved use, if it's a non-residential for non-residential, any assumptions beyond that, we're adding our own interpretation into the statute, which I don't think is proper. And I
Well
don't
said.
think he should have to go in front of the board.
I'm in agreement.
I think it's plain and simple. I have no problems with it. On the other side, using the language of my deceased mother, let's not make a mountain out of a molehill.
Anybody else for deliberation?
Yeah, I mean, I respectfully disagree. I think that yes, on its face, it says what it says, and I agree with that. But I think that by looking at everything in full, that's where we have to, even if we're not making assumptions, if it's supposed to be a checklist where they go down, if it fits in that list, they do it. If it doesn't, there's a process that is enumerated. So for us to just blanketly say, you don't have to cooperate with the rest of that ordinance, in my opinion, that's incorrect. And I understand that although we cannot control street parking, there's a process for them to get relief from that as well, within that same ordinance. So I'm not trying to make a mountain out of a molehill. I just want to make sure that we are following the letter of the law.
Any other comments? Being none, we want to make a motion.
I will. I too feel like if you take the statute as it's listed, it's very straightforward. I have trouble adding verbiage to it and coming up with a new statute that's listed other than what's there. So I respectfully don't agree with the zoning officer.
Okay.
So do we have a motion?
I will make a motion that the applicant does not have to go in front of the planning board.
No,
Site
no,
plan.
no.
You're actually saying that his
Does not have to.
His interpretation of the ordinance is correct.
I make a motion that the applicant's interpretation of the statute is correct.
I second.
Okay, that's, it's an ordinance.
Ordinance.
Okay, that's fine.
I'll second it.
Okay. I have Daniel Harris,
Yes.
No.
Russell Lewis,
That's right.
Yes.
Jill Potter,
Yes.
Natalie Passerini,
Yes.
JJ Hall,
No.
Vice Chair Scully,
Yes.
Chairman Avalone.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
And I make a motion to take a 10-minute recess.
Second?
Oh, motion, second?
Second.
Second, all in favor? None
Aye.
opposed? Okay. All right, I will now take roll call. Wendy Glassman absent, Daniel Harris.
Here.
Russell Lewis.
Here.
Jill Potter,
Here.
Natalie Passerini,
Here.
John Hall.
Here.
Vice Chair John Scully is recused. from
As
this-
well as Wendy Glassman.
As well as Wendy Glassman, and Chairman Avalone.
Here. All right. Thank you. Let's get back to it. Next application is 601 Grand Avenue, the Hope Academy Charter School.
Mr. Chairman, I reviewed the notices. They're in proper form. We have jurisdiction to proceed in this matter.
Thank you, Jack. And am I looking at Mr. Scuria?
Scaria, yes.
Scuria.
Thank you.
Do you guys need to plug anything in, or are you just screen?
We use the screen for our engineer, we're ready for that. Okay?
Please
Good evening.
proceed.
Good evening. My name is Richard Scaria. I'm a partner at the law firm Halen Newman Wright. I represent the applicant here, Hope Academy Charter School, which is the owner of the property at 601 Grand Avenue, which is known as Block 3204, Lot 6. The property is in the R2 residential zone. A small portion of it's in the R3 residential zone, but really not impacting anything. We're here for today. The current use of the property is a school, which is a pre-existing non-conforming use of the subject location. I just want to give just a little brief background for the testimony so the board knows what we're here for today. The applicant is proposing to place a modular library next to the school for educational purposes. The modular library is intended to be used as a media center for the students and the teachers. And we will present details from,
Where was it originally, Mr. Scuria?
where was what?
The Media Center Library?
There is none there.
Currently, they don't have
No, this
that.
is, so what we're planning to do is add a trailer, which is a mobile modular library in the form of a.
But there was no library prior in the building.
I can have the, Ms. Pratt testify as to that. I think this is an addition. I don't think it's moving.
Well, I'm just trying to understand why all of a sudden you need a library if there was already a library.
Well, I think I can have my witness testify as to that. I think she would just have more knowledge as to the reason.
So you're saying you don't know whether there was a library there originally?
There is a library in the school.
Oh, there is.
I believe there's a library in the school, and this is pursuant to a federal grant to provide additional space for use as an educational center, media center, which will be an additional.
So there was a library, and now you want a library outside of the building?
We would like to add a additional modular library outside the building to be also used as a media center and for educational use.
Why can't the current library be used as a media center?
This is pursuant to a federal grant, and I don't want to present testimony here, but this is going to be served as a dedicated library.
I'm just trying to get to the facts to understand what.
So is the federal grant triggering the mobile trailer unit? Is that or is that what you guys want to spend the money on, is bringing in a trailer for a media
Well,
center?
there's a federal grant
Got
that
it.
covers a lot of items, and
But that's not specific to make a library, though.
no, the federal grant is a certain amount that covers many different things, and one of the purposes that the school wants to use the grant for is to add a media center and add this.
So why can't you use the library's media center, or make the media center in the current library?
Enhance or improve or update the media center library that you have
Again,
now?
I believe that the space is needed here, and the main building has limited space for that, and this provides additional space. That's too small, that this is an expansion.
You believe or you know?
Well, wait a minute, wait. We gotta allow him to put the case in to justify his position.
Okay.
You may not agree with him, but you'll find out whether you agree.
That's
with
fair,
him.
but it was just getting some pre-clarification on the need.
Again, and as I was going to say, I have my witness, who is the principal of the school,
Okay.
can provide the specifics. The library there, why it needs to increase. You can ask her any questions concerning that. I just want to say what we're doing, what we're proposing. I don't want to provide specific testimony.
Okay.
Because I just want to be fair, and she can explain it better than me.
I
But my
appreciate that.
understanding is that the main building has library services and very limited space, and that there is an opportunity with a federal grant to increase that space to provide a media center. And Ms. Pratt, who's the principal, can testify as to specific reasons why we can't do it in the school, why this modular library will be beneficial to the school. And then if you want to ask her questions, I think she'd be better equipped to
So
answer.
basically, this is to enhance the education and improve the quality of education for the students going to that school.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Okay. So again, just as to the variances required in the application, there are no changes to the existing school building, but this is an expansion of a pre-existing non-conforming use. So the fact that we are adding a modular library in the form of a trailer expands that use, because we're expanding the floor area. So we need a D2 use variance for expansion of the non-conforming use. We would also need a variance here for an accessory use, a non-permitted accessory use. It's considered under the Asbury Park zoning ordinances to be a trailer, and it's not permitted. Specific purposes, trailers are permitted or more to do with warehouses, but it's not permitted for this application, so we would need a variance for that. Excuse me. We also require a minor site plan approval, and there's also bulk variances for the main building school that's pre-existing, but we're not changing any of those, but they're technical variances. And we're also going to talk about the design waiver for the parking spots, and basically we're going to testify that there's two parking lots. There's one on Sewell Avenue that's used. There's one on Monroe Avenue, even though we're getting rid of 4 parking spaces. No one parks there. It's a playground area. We're not changing anything with the amount of cars that they have to park in a different location. This is an area that's used for the playground, and that the elimination of the 4 spaces is not going to affect the parking or the traffic flow on that. And then we originally submitted the application with the modular library to be on the corner, on the southwest side, which was close to Monroe and close to the property. But based upon the recommendations of the planner, we amended our application and moved the modular library very close to the school. This way, it's out of the way from the street, from the neighbors. It has proper handicap ramping, and it's easy access to the school to go back and forth. This modular library is only for use for 15, 20 minutes, so it doesn't have bathrooms, there's not going to be a classroom. It's just additional space for the media center. So with that being said, and that's an overview of the application, we have 3 witnesses, who's Devisha Pratt is the principal, Chris Nusser is our engineer, and Mark Lieber is our planner from East Point, and we have some photos and also exhibits we would like to submit. Unless the board has any further questions for me or clarifications, I can start with the witnesses.
Please proceed.
Do you understand the extent of the application? Minor site plan with D and bulk variances and design exceptions. Fair enough. Okay.
Thank you. I have Ms. Pratt.
Please.
Good evening.
May I sit during the testimony?
Yes,
Please.
sure.
Okay.
Should just sit here?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna get the Madam, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name for the record and spell it.
Devisha Pratt, D as in David, A, V as in Victor, I, S as in Sam, H as in Henry, A. Last name P as in Paul, R-A-T-T.
Okay. And I'll have my staff sworn in as well. Please, right hand, solemnly swear or affirm the testimony about to give in this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your names for the record and your affiliation with the board.
Donna Miller, board planner.
Jerry Frida, board engineer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Pratt, who is the applicant here or the owner of the property?
Hope Academy Charter School.
Okay. And are you employed at Hope Academy?
Yes, I am.
And what is your position there?
I am the Chief School Administrator / Superintendent.
Okay, and how long have you been the superintendent administrator of Hope Academy?
I transitioned to superintendent in July of 2014, but I started at Hope Academy in 2003.
And you have the authority from Hope Academy Board to act on behalf of the applicant for this application?
Correct.
Okay. And can you provide just some history for the board as to Hope Academy? It's a charter school, what it is, and the students.
Sure. So our school was founded in 2001, founded by teachers from the Asbury Park School District. We actually recently were just approved for our 5th charter renewal, so we were renewed for another 5 years. Our school was approved to serve a max of 360 students. Currently, we serve 311. And the space that we currently occupy was purchased for the students, but it was not originally outfitted as a school. So we have limited space. So that's the basic request tonight, to be able to provide a modular unit to provide additional learning space for the students in the form of a library.
And you spoke about the limited space, and a question from the chairman when I started my introduction. Can you describe specifically the space you have now at the school and why there is a need to add a modular library to increase the space for library purposes or for educational purposes?
Sure. We do not currently have a library, nor do we actually have a gym. So this will provide an opportunity to bring the students together for research purposes, reading books. Our students do currently, walk over to the library, but to have something on property would make it very conducive for learning, to be able to have another learning space to go to. Again, that space that we're currently in was not originally outfitted as a school building.
So just to correct me, and maybe I misstated, I apologize to the board. So the school right now does not have a library?
We do not have a library.
Okay. Do you have any area in the school where you use as a library space or anything you use, or do you have to go off-site?
We have to go off-site. The classrooms, we of course have small portions of books to provide the students, but there is no official library space.
Okay. And so going to the application, so to add the modular unit on the space, what would be its specific function?
So specifically, again, we would be using it for research purposes. Ultimately, we would create a schedule for use. Teachers would sign up to be able to go into the library to do various research projects. The grant that was referenced will provide an opportunity, $200,000, you guys, I think, inquired about the grant. $200,000 of the grant would be utilized to purchase this modular unit. And the students would have the opportunity, as I mentioned, to go in and leave their current classrooms to be able to go into a different space, to do research, to just have different activities happen outside of the learning environment that they currently have.
And how long do you plan on having this modular building on site? What's the duration?
It would be indefinitely. We don't have a designated time frame.
And just describe the grant a little more about the grant that the school has received and what's being dedicated for the purchase of this building.
So this is a charter school grant. We were awarded $1.5 million, of which we are allocating $200,000 for this particular modular unit. The grant, of course, was something that we were able to receive because the Department of Education approved us to increase our student numbers. So with that, over the last couple of years, we used the grant for multiple reasons in support of educational use. And this was one of the things that many other charter schools have been able to use the grant funds for.
And can you just some highlights of the operations? What would the hours of operation be for use of the modular library?
Sure. So that would not change from our regular daily school operation. So we run from 8 o'clock in the morning to 3 p.m. in the afternoon. So we would make sure that the operation for this library is the same time frame as the school operation. Nothing would change there.
And how about the staffing? How would a modular library be staffed?
So that would just be the students and our current staff that we have. So we're not talking about a very large unit. Our class sizes are small. So we're looking at a ratio of maybe 1 to 15, 16 students max. And that would be the only individuals going into the library at one time. And so we're looking at, a time frame of anywhere between 30 to 35 minutes. But again, the teachers would sign up. So in terms of staffing, it would be the teachers that we currently have working in the building, as well as the cleaning staff. It would just become another location, another room, educational use room.
Okay. And can you just describe, if you haven't already, the specific services that the library will provide?
Okay.
Books, media,
Right.
technology.
Yes, so the grant also has allocated funds to get laptops, devices, as well as a plethora of educational books to be able to use, as well as software for the laptops to be able to access various research sites.
And how about the requirements such as, and I know the engineer will probably talk further about this, but ADA compliance, ramps, access to the bathrooms in relation to the school. Can you just describe that just in general?
Yes, so we have been in partnership with several professionals in terms of making sure that it is going to be ADA compliant, and there will not be a bathroom there. It will be similar to just the students as they are outside at recess. They go right inside our building to use the bathroom, so it would be the same thing because this is right next to the building.
And just, so what would be like the ultimate purpose? I know you explained it for a library, but how would this modular library benefit the students as a whole, benefits the school as a whole for education?
Okay, so I've prepared a statement. I didn't want to miss anything with that part, so let me just share that. The modular trailer library will play a critical role in maintaining literacy support, equitable access to educational resources for all of our scholars. It is a cost-effective, student-centered solution that aligns with district strategic priorities in curriculum and support. It will provide digital access and academic readiness across grade levels. We provide grade levels kindergarten through 8th grade. Our operational model will ensure that the library continues to function as a vibrant hub for learning, collaboration, and exploration, regardless of facility changes or enrollment growth. We believe that this is an inherently beneficial use.
And you understand as part of this application, you're required to obtain a use variance for the addition of the modular library because the school is a pre-existing non-conforming use of the zone.
Yes, we understand.
Okay. And you also need a variance for the accessory structure, the modular library itself. That accessory structure is not permitted without a variance before this board, right?
Correct.
And I also want to talk a little about the parking. You understand as part of this application that the placement of the modular library, just from its size, will eliminate 4 parking spaces in the lot.
We're aware. The additional spaces that are in that particular lot are not currently used at all anyway, so it won't cause any concern.
And can you describe to the board, your parking arrangement, as far as, you have the one lot where people park, and this lot, what this lot is used for? If you just give a little background so the board understands about these parking spaces.
Yes, so we have ample parking in our back lot for our employees. The lot that will house the modular library it also serves as our play area, and that will not change. The students will still be able to play in that area, have recess and gym.
I'd like to just introduce a few photos, if we can have these.
Okay, Marshall, how many?
There's 6, and they're actually page numbered.
Okay, so let's make it A1 consisting of 6 pages of photographs.
And I have 4 sets. Hopefully that's enough to pass around. I just want to review these photos here, just so the board has a sense visually of where the modular library is going to go. And are you familiar with these photos that is marked as A1, and there's 6 pages of these photos, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And these were taken by the engineer for this application, who will be testifying after you, correct?
Correct.
So just go one at a time and they're marked clearly. Photo number 1, just show what that represents and where the modular library will go in relation to this photo.
In photo 1, the blue painted area closer to the parking, where you see cars, that would be where the unit would be placed.
So if you're going where the blue and the school meet, with a little maybe space between that, that's where the modular library would be proposed.
Correct.
Right. And if you look at the second page, as it's just showing a continuing blue area, the extension of the parking lot.
Yes, correct.
And it's just going to remain as a play area
For the students, yes.
And in this lot, even though there was some striping there previously, this lot is used for complete play, no one parks.
No one parks there.
And if you go to photo number 3, are we basically just going in a circle around the lot? This was
Correct.
okay. And do you recall originally you proposed the modular trailer on this corner?
Yes,
of the lot?
originally, yes, closer
Right.
to the trees.
Right, but we decided after the planner's comments to move this closer to the school.
Correct.
Okay. And then can you just tell the board what photo 4 is with all the cars there?
Photo 4 is the back parking lot with the parking for the employees.
And this is where everyone parks.
Correct.
And if you go, I guess, to the far side of this photo, that would be the lot, which were the first 3 photos.
Yes.
Right, okay. And then photo number 5, is this just an aerial view of that parking lot?
Yes.
What is in the window?
You can see both parking lots
Okay,
from
both.
there.
And the modular home would be towards that, I guess, that right corner, bottom right corner of the window.
Correct.
Those benches are, correct? Okay. And photo number 6, there's 2 photos here. You describe these 2.
Both of those photos, again, are of the back parking lot.
Okay.
We had window work being done. That's what's happening in that
Okay,
picture.
so that was there. So is your testimony that regardless of the elimination of these 4 spaces, that there's sufficient parking in the main parking lot where everyone parks?
Correct.
You have any need for off-street parking at all?
No.
Okay. And your employees are always able to park in that parking lot?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so as far as, we'll go more about with the planning testimony about the curb cuts and the driveways, even though they're undersized or not the right, it wouldn't make a difference because no cars go through there.
No cars
no
park
cars
in that
will ever
area.
go through.
No cars at all.
Do you have anything else you would like to add to the board? Any further testimony?
No. If they have any questions of me.
I have no more questions.
Okay, what grades do you serve?
What
grades do you serve?
Kindergarten through 8th grade.
Kindergarten through 8th grade?
Yes.
Okay, how long will it take the young people to walk from the main building to the new library?
Oh, less than a minute.
Less
Maybe,
than a minute?
yeah, less than a minute. I'd say maybe 30 to 40 seconds. It's that close.
Okay, and now what about security in reference to that time they go from one to the building to the other building?
It would remain as it is now. We have security staff that survey the area
Okay.
and work with us.
So the cameras that will watch them walking from one building to the
Oh,
other?
absolutely. We have cameras in both lots.
Okay, thank you.
I had some questions about parking. You said that no one parks there now. Can people park there now? They just don't? Or you are not able to park there now?
We could if we had to open it up, but we do not need to use it because we have ample parking in the back lot.
Can the public use that parking?
No.
And you said that one of the purposes or a part of the grant was to potentially increase your student count. I'm curious, just longer term planning, more students, more teachers, more parking?
No, we are capping at the 360.
Okay.
Yes.
And so your number of parking spots for teachers would service the 360?
Yes. Mhm.
And just if I could follow up on that, as a result of adding the modular library, are you increasing any of the employees, staff, in the
No.
other sectors of the school?
No,
You're
that's
keeping
not
everything
changing.
the same?
Yes.
Is this a prefab trailer unit? Or are you bringing in a container ship and modifying it? Like, I'm just curious, what does it look like? Is
So
it
I'm
already
going to leave
outfitted?
that to the experts to be able to give you the
I know,
specific
but I didn't know if
details.
she knew it already.
Right, so it is my assumption that there will be parts that will be prefabbed, and it'll have to be put together there,
Okay.
but there are,
But this is a temporary structure, correct?
well, it can be moved. It can be a structure that can be removed if necessary. That was one of the grant requirements. Yes,
Oh, that's a grant requirement.
that it's movable, yes.
Yeah.
So, I guess I'll wait for the architect.
Right, I mean, I
Does
do
that mean
have-
it's on wheels?
I do have pictures of it.
Okay.
So I can show that with the engineer and explain exactly what it looks like. This is a picture of
Yeah.
now I'll
It doesn't
introduce
say
that.
a foundation. It's probably.
What's the
buried
life of the
foundation.
grant?
I'm sorry?
This a one-time grant?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so you won't have to reapply, but that modular unit will exist as long as the school exists. That's
Correct.
Do you have after-school programming? Like,
We-
will it be part of the after-school programming?
This will not be a part of the after-school programming, but we do have after-school programming until 4 p.m.
Till 4?
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you.
Any further questions for Ms.
Yeah, I have
Pratt?
one more. So you had said that currently the parking spaces that would be occupied by the unit are used for part of recess and gym, but you don't have a gym at the school currently.
No, we do not have a gym currently. It's outside, yes.
Are you concerned that those spots that are currently being used for gym activities is going to be reduced because of the unit?
No, there's ample space out there. We're not concerned at all. Currently, when the kids are outside, they're not using the entire space.
Hi, Devisha.
Hello.
I do see that the unit is really close to the basketball court. And I just want to make sure we can still make those three-point shots from that top right corner. I see that there are stairs going into that three-point spot. So I just want to make sure that our basketball players are also well protected in this.
Yes, we've discussed that. That
Okay.
will be moved over just a bit.
Okay, good.
Yes, and there's still space for that.
Okay.
Any further questions for Ms. Pratt? Board professionals? No.
Thank you.
Anybody in the public for Ms. Pratt?
Oh,
No? Thank you.
thank you.
Next witness is Christopher Nusser.
Hello, please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name for the record and spell it for me.
It's Christopher Nusser, and is Nancy, U-S-S-E-R.
Thank you.
Mr. Nisser, whom are you employed with?
So I work for French and Perlow Associates. Our address is 700 Grand Avenue in Hackettstown, New Jersey. I am a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. That license is in good standing. I graduated from Rutgers University in 2006 with a Bachelor's of Science in Civil Engineering. I have appeared before over 80 boards in the state of New Jersey in the capacity of...
Thank you, Mr. Nusser, that's fine. We accept your credentials.
Thank you.
And before I start, I know you want to put something on the screen, so we're not doing two things at once here. Then we can start. Yeah.
Here we go.
Okay.
Kind of.
All right, and can you just describe before we talk about us what you have there on the screen?
Sure, so this would be A2?
Yes, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
And then we'll email in a copy of it.
Sure.
Or I can throw you a jump drive because I came prepared with a backup and a backup for my backup. So A2 is titled Site Plan Exhibit, dated today's date and prepared by my office. It is the site plan overlaid on an aerial photograph of the site and the surrounding areas so that we can have an understanding of kind of what we have around us on the property. I will do my best here to go full screen.
And just to clarify, you were involved in the preparation of that application, of that plot plan?
Yes.
Okay, and you're familiar with everything in the plot
I am.
plan? Okay, and just describe and go through that.
Sure. So I think I have some notes here that I'm going to skip over a little bit. We've talked a bit about the site as it is, but just quickly to orient everybody, north is up on the page here. The site is triple frontaged, so we have Monroe Ave on the south, Grand on the east, and Sewell on the north. The building, the existing five-story school building, is in the southeast corner of the site at the corner of Monroe and Grand. The parking lot that's used by the staff is this upper parking lot here. And then the proposed building is located, it's this orangey tan colored square rectangle on the plan with the access ramp and stairs located in this lighter peach color in front of it. So again, located where it would block these 4 spaces, leaving these 5 spaces open, and as was noted, encroaching slightly into the existing basketball court area. So the site is surrounded by a fence, which is noted on the plan. It was a comment in your planner's letter that fence actually extends beyond the property line and into the right-of-way. That was a pre-existing fence that has been there prior to the school operating. I think the request would be that we would like to seek, just to speak to the letter in your planner, the comment in your planner's letter, would be that we'd like to maintain the fence in its current location. We understand that would require a license from the city council, and absent their approval, we would have to relocate the fence back into the compliant location onto the property.
But that was pre-existing, correct? That
It was
in the right of way?
pre-existing. It's in the right. It's there.
It's in the right of way.
It's not anything that we're asking to change. We're actually making no changes to the site, right? We're not adding any impervious. We're not taking away any impervious. We're not adding any fencing.
We don't have the right to grant a variance for that.
No, you
So
don't, right. It would
That
just
would be something that you would have to get from the council.
It would be, a condition would be that we would have to go to the council and request the license from them to allow it to be within what's essentially the city's property, right? So that would be the request, and if they were to say no, then we would relocate the fence onto the property into a compliant location. From a traffic circulation standpoint, again, what's used predominantly by the staff is this parking lot here. There are two entrances, or an entrance and an exit onto Sewell, accessing the parking lot, which has one-way circulation around it. So you have these angled parking spaces and some parallel stalls facing Grand Avenue. The parking lot playground area in question where the modular building is proposed, we do have those existing 9 spaces striped out where we would lose those 4. They are angled, so if you come in, you would use this existing curb cut entrance, come through the gate, because it is gated, and park in the spaces. If you were to leave, or when you were to leave, it is not the Hotel California, you'd be able to back up. There's plenty of space in there. You'd back up and come back out that entrance. But again, as it's not a used parking lot, it's not, actively, it's not people coming in and out constantly. If it gets used, it's infrequent at best. So you don't have conflicts with traffic on the fact that really you have what would be two-way traffic in there, right, in that driveway, but it's only wide enough to really support one-way traffic. I would think of it more like a residential driveway where it's very limited in its use, and you're not going to have a series of conflicts where people are coming in and going out all at the same time. And even if that were to happen, it constricts at the gate and at the entrance, but just inside, there's plenty of space for somebody to keep their car off to the side and let somebody come in while somebody comes out. It's not a space constriction. It's just in that one little space. So, again, an existing condition that is inherent to the site that we're just looking to maintain without any negative detrimental impacts to the way that it functions, or to, the safety of either the people parking there, the people on, that would be potentially walking on the street, driving on the street. I don't see any negatives from that.
And just, not to stop you there, but it's eliminating 4 auxiliary off-street parking spaces. Is that where the location of the modular building is?
Yes, so what we're saying is that these last 4 spaces would no longer be, I'm going to zoom in here, let everybody out. These last 4 spaces would become unusable. I think realistically, maybe this 4th spot here is really still would be usable, if necessary. But at the end of the day, it's not used at all now. So while functionally those spaces are being lost, and again, there's a requirement for the ordinance to have 65 parking spaces. We currently have 55 parking spaces. With the loss of 4, we go to 51. So that's the design waiver that was referenced earlier in the parking, where we would be deficient in parking. You heard the testimony from the applicant that this isn't a parking lot that they use. Again, it's gated, so it's controlled. If they needed to use it, they would have to open the gate to it. But right now, everybody fits in the upper parking lot with sufficient space to support the staff that they have and would need. So this is kind of...
So is this a trailer, or is this a building, or is this what exactly is this structure?
Sure. Well, we can, yeah.
What I can do is I can present as another exhibit the actual modular style, so we can maybe...
But the testimony was that it had to be able to be moved,
Yeah, so
right?
what it is, I mean, it's a modular building, but it comes in, it is on wheels, right? It would be trailered in, so it is on wheels. They install skirting underneath it once it's installed, so you're not looking at the wheels, right? It has a more finished look to it than just being.
So it's sort of like a mobile home.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean.
Yes. Thank you.
I mean, it doesn't, in the end, it doesn't rest upon the wheels.
How wide is this mobile home?
14, no.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't call it a home because nobody's living in it.
Well,
But it's
you know what I
about-
mean, Mr.
it's-
Nusser, please.
Yeah, it's about 12 feet wide, right? So it's 11.75 feet wide, and it's
It's going to
56
contain
feet long.
bookshelves and tables and computers, and it's only
Yes.
12 feet wide.
Correct.
11.75.
It seems
How tall is it?
It seems awful
Is it a 9
tight
feet?
for all that.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just introduce maybe these pictures might help you with the questions of the mobile home. This would be A,
3.
and I have 4 sets here, and it's a total of 3 pictures.
Excuse me.
A3?
Yes.
This is not an unusual phenomenon. Various districts do use trailers and modular classrooms. Am I correct?
You are. It's very common.
Okay. Well, you're not inventing the wheel.
No. No, actually, the manufacturer, if you go on their website, has a little bar on top that says modular classrooms. So there's a market for it.
Okay.
Makes it about representative.
But I mean, I'm just looking at it. It's not like it's something that I haven't seen before. I mean, I'm a retired
Please.
teacher and I'm an official, athletic official. So I mean, this is very commonplace.
Right.
So, just coming in with something that's new. Basically, you're coming in with something that has been proven, something that is successful, and you're only trying to bring it in to enhance the education of the children in the district based on the fact that they don't have enough room in the building that they are in right now.
That's correct.
Okay.
Are
And-
there,
Okay, go ahead, I'm
just,
sorry.
sorry. No, you can go.
No, I just wanted to describe, I mean, if
Go
you have
ahead.
a question, that's fine. I just wanted to go through the pictures first while
Go through the
I
pictures.
show them.
I'm sorry.
Excuse
So-
me, if I could, before we get to the building, I just want to go back to the parking lot.
Please do, Jerry.
You guys mind? So, you testified that it's a one-way circulation in the parking lot in the back. Correct?
Yes, that's my
And
understanding.
which gate is used for the in and which gate's used for the out? Or are both used whenever?
I don't know the answer to that.
So it might be a good idea to put a plan together, a circulation plan of the lot, and identify which one's the entrance and which one's the exit for safety. It is a school, kids could be running around. Be good to have that done.
Okay. We can add some
Also,
arrow.
painted arrows in
Yeah.
the lanes would be good. You know, none of this stuff costs a lot of money, but it's a good safety feature.
It's cheap insurance, if
Yes.
nothing else.
Thank you. The gates on Monroe, there's only one gate that goes into the parking lot?
No, there's 2.
Not off Monroe. I only see one gate. I see 2 concrete aprons, but I only see one gate. One gate, right?
Yes, one gate.
Right.
Is that gate locked?
That's I think, a question for the applicant, but my understanding
We
is.
can get back to that if we're like, I'm only thinking in case of a fire, something like that, access into the, you never want to take a truck too close to a fire, but depending on where it is in a building like this, I'm not sure where they'd want to be. So I'm just bringing that up, food for thought. And you did agree that you would do the circulation and maybe the signage, the in and out.
Yeah.
What was the second point you made, circulation and?
The circulation of the, of inward traffic and outward traffic, and then arrows.
Arrows.
Flow arrows. Painted on the surface, showing the direction of flow. Traffic flow. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Were we on?
Oh, yeah, while we, we might jump back and forth, but what I presented is A3. Can you just describe, there's 3 pictures here, describe each of the pictures and what it represents.
Yeah, I don't know what order specifically, I guess you hopefully have it in the same order where the first one you're looking at.
So I understand, this is the actual trailer?
This is not the actual trailer, but this
Okay.
is representative of.
This is just a representation? Yes?
Yes.
It would
This
be the
is
style and the schematic, I guess, is similar.
Size, scale, right, the length, the width of it is consistent with what's proposed.
And what about the actual materials that it's composed of and?
Yes, I don't know about colors. Okay, yeah, I'm not sure about the color of it specifically, but, material-wise, yes, this is how it would be constructed.
And just go through each of the pictures just so they have the same order as theirs.
And I'm assuming that what you have there is the HVAC equipment that's hanging out the back of it?
That's correct.
Okay, and that's the proposed way it's going to come in and be on the property? Or is it going to be separate from the building?
The HVAC it comes in attached.
So it will be attached?
Yes. So the first picture, the view is the rear of the building. So the HVAC on that would be, if you're looking back to A2, would put that on the school-facing side of the building, right? So it would be facing in towards the building. The second is looking at the front of the building. You can see the two doors on there, consistent with the two doors that are proposed here on the site plan, right? There's no rear doors based upon the way that this site lays out. And then the final picture is just another picture of the front from a little bit further away. It's not the most glamorous picture because again, it's sitting within on the manufacturer on their property in their yard. So it's not in a finished state where you have the skirting in there and all the stairs with the railings and the ramps are in place. But this is what the building would look like from a size, a scale, visually what is proposed.
Thank you. Okay. So I guess if we would continue, and I want to review, unless you have anything to add, the board engineer's letter to this application. I think we spoke about paragraph 6, which was about the parking, correct, of the letter from Leon Abakian, dated April 9, 2025.
Yeah, if that's how you want to proceed, that's fine. We did talk about item number 6 in there, which is the amount of parking. Item number 7, we discussed as well. Item number 7 in that letter, this is again page 3 of that letter, is the curb opening and the circulation through the small auxiliary parking lot. We talked about the traffic flow and adding arrows. Item number 8 is about exterior lighting. There is not a lighting plan that's proposed. There are lights on the site. There are 2 poles within the parking lot that have a pair of lights each on them. There's also a light in kind of the corner of the basketball court, and then again down on Monroe, facing in to the playground area, and a light mounted on the building. So it's a lit space. There wasn't a need, in our opinion, to add lighting from what was there now. The lighting wouldn't really be necessary if, this is from 8 to 3 is when the school's operating. Obviously, somebody could still be cleaning it after hours or, something like that where the building could need to be accessed and based upon the lighting that already exists on site, there would be sufficient lighting where there wouldn't be, an issue or a need to add to lighting on the property.
I just want to add something. It's not in the letter here, the engineer letter, but the trailer will be serviced by electric, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and I believe, how would the electric connect to the trailer?
So there's an existing service pole in the northwest corner here of the basketball court. So the service will come off of that pole to the building, overhead.
You're proposing an aerial service?
It would be an aerial service.
Would you consider underground, if the building's going to be there for some time, might be better long-term to put it underground?
I think they would have a concern, we'd be chewing up the parking lot here where, people are accessing and creating a hump and a difference in there. I don't think it's really a big cost difference either way. It's not a long run. It's not a big service.
The electric equipment for the trailer is underneath the trailer, right?
I'm not aware of where the equipment for it is kept, if it's internal or underneath.
How high is the top of the trailer? Where the aerial line will come from the pole to the top of the trailer, where would that be? Is it the back corner, or is it?
Yes.
Is it 10 feet high? Is
Right,
it
it
12
was-
feet high?
Don't remember offhand exactly how tall the trailer is, but the trailers are generally 9 feet high themselves, and then it's about 2.5 feet off the ground, so you're about 11 and a half feet in the air.
So you're proposing an aerial run, about how far is that pole from the corner of the building?
From here to here, 20 feet.
20 feet. So it's the board's decision whether you want them to bring it underground or have an aerial line across. But the only utility to the trailer is electric, right?
That is correct. Yeah, there's no water, there's no sewer, there's no gas. It's only electric
Is the electric line over the basketball court?
currently.
But your plan says it's to be relocated.
Yeah, the utility is going to relocate that line.
Where?
They're going to relocate it closer to the property line.
So
So they're going to,
So it's coming off a pole on Monroe
they're going to.
into the site
The
to another
utility,
pole.
the utility is going to add a pole along Monroe and then run it to the rear from there.
So the original reason why the modular library was proposed on that bottom left corner was because it was closest to the electric. And that was going to be the access, but because that was far away from the school and it's better access to have it closer to school based upon the recommendations of the board professionals, the only way to get that electric there is to create an additional pole and to run it across.
But the service to the school is actually on a pole
Right.
overhead to that
It's
southwest corner of the building.
this pole here coming into the building.
Yeah, that serves the building.
Yes.
So why can't we just run along the building to the back corner and then over to the trailer?
And then across?
And then we don't need a new pole, and we can get rid of the extra overhead line
And not
that's
be over
running across the basketball
court?
court.
Well, this also, this pole also has the.
I know it has the light on it,
Has the light
but
on it, so that's.
Is it fed from that service line, or is it?
Yes,
fed from
that's how
internally?
that is how it's fed in from there. And then I believe it then feeds.
This is what happens when you let JCP&L run loose with their wire.
Well, is the service to the light pole in question underground or is it aerial?
No.
This is aerial. This is an existing aerial service.
So you're gonna run aerial to the pole, and then aerial from the pole to the back corner of the trailer.
From the existing pole to a new pole, back to this pole, all aerial, and then aerial to the trailer.
Yeah, sounds like not a very clean operation.
And that's right over the basketball court as well.
I mean, it is now.
Are you adverse to running underneath?
I'm sorry.
Are you adverse to running it underground?
Well, they have the whole thing paved and looks recently at least seal coated. So.
Well, you're talking a trench that's about 18 feet wide.
Inches.
Inches, sorry, thank you. It's hardly even noticeable. It gets the wire down under the ground. It only has to be 2 foot, I believe, covered. It's not a big ask, I don't believe, for the board to require that.
I agree with you, because with the basketball court,
Yeah,
okay, that's a hazard waiting to happen. Okay, you're not talking about a great deal of asphalt, you're not doing the whole parking lot. You're only doing it from point A to point B to get, and plus it's more permanent.
and you can eliminate the pole. You can just run it underground,
Right.
right to the back corner, and you're done.
I agree with you.
So it would go underground like an L, basically?
Oh, just from the pole with the light on it,
Right to
that's
the
in that
trailer.
corner.
Right,
Straight from there, underground, to the corner,
To the
back
corner.
corner. Yeah.
right. And then how do we just connect to the pole from the Monroe pole to the, would it all be underground from?
Well, your service is already aerial to that pole. So you're
Right,
just
but the
running it
board
from that
members
pole over.
want that, that's the one they want relocated and so it's not crossing the basketball court.
So, again, didn't want to agree to something on the applicant's behalf, but we will find a way to either run it on the building and over, or put it underground so that it's not running aerial over the court, or however.
That's good, thank you.
I just have a question. How long is the particular, is that, if you can zoom in, is that 56 feet?
This is 56 feet, yes.
And are there smaller trailers available?
Yeah,
You would presume.
yeah, I would presume that they sell it in
Me too. I would think that they have
40
different
foots,
lengths.
20 foots, 30 foots.
Is that,
Your concern is the basketball court.
it is. Is that the exact placement of where you foresee the trailer going?
Yes.
Then how are the children playing basketball?
Not on a regulation court.
Right. And running
Right.
into the side of the trailer.
Or you're working on on a half court. Right, you can
Would
play a
basketball
half court
may
game.
have so much space.
Could,
I'm
and I
sorry.
don't,
Could you move the basketball court, being that it appears you have adequate space to do so?
You mean kind of rotate it?
I believe this choice, the placement of this trailer was agreed to because of a safety issue. Is that correct, Mr. Nusser?
is it because of egress and fire?
It was
like
to
if
get
they
it
have
closer
out?
to the building.
It was-
Is that correct?
Closer to the building.
Where did you originally
So,
have the placement of the
It was
trailer?
originally proposed going north and south along this western property line, so it would have taken up basically the whole basketball court, so it's
So
now
this was the compromise to put it in this location, is that correct?
correct.
I mean, I recommended it to parallel the building.
Well, I was just
So
gonna
I would
say,
say-
can we swing
Okay.
it so that the ramp and entrance is facing the building?
Why wouldn't it be closer to the building altogether?
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you took it and you just rotated it 90 degrees.
I think the concerns were closer to the building in general is because there's no bathrooms in there and you want to be able to be closer to the school to use the bathrooms. The ADA ramps work better at this configuration. You get in and out, there's easier ingress and egress and it took out less of the park.
I think.
Right,
I would-
but what I'm saying is if you just, for those exact reasons, if you just took the trailer and you rotated it,
So it's parallel to the
so it's
building.
parallel to the building,
90 degrees.
yep, 90 degrees.
With the-
And
Here.
now
Next to the
everybody's
sidewalk.
coming in and out going this way versus coming out and then.
Yeah, there's doors there's egress doors along the building here that we would be blocking by doing that, so we can't do it. I think what we can do
We're
is
not
to the.
blocking it. It can, if you
No,
just
there
go
may be-
right where the center line
There may
is.
be a requirement, Jill, for somebody.
That's what I'm
outside.
asking. Is there an egress requirement?
And you're kind of, you're kind of breaking up the play space outside. I think what we can do, and I think the suggestion that I think you were maybe getting at was, we can restripe that basketball court and turn it, and it would just be this way, in front of this space. So we would just run it east-west instead of north-south. We could fit that full court within there. Again, this parking doesn't get used. We have the full basketball court still there. We restripe for it. I think, a concern may have been the wire running across, but the wire's being taken care of anyway, so.
So you change the configuration of the basketball court,
Correct.
okay? You want to run the wires underground, okay, which is much better in reference to a safety factor for the children. And we get what we wanted anyway. Everybody gets, so you're conceding, we're suggesting, because this ain't about us, this is about kids.
Yeah.
Okay, and being an ex teacher, I'm all for the kids. I sometimes I think adults need to stay out of it. But let's do what's right for the kids. If they want a full basketball court, let them have it. Just let's make it easier for them. If we want to keep them safe, let's put the wires on the ground, make it easier for them, and let's go forward with this. Okay, because kids leave.
Thank you.
One last question, and then I'm done with the parking. Deliveries, you guys must get cleaning products and paper and every other thing. How does that come in and out of the site?
Delivered at the front door.
Everything's at the front door? Okay.
All right, so because it is getting late, I have a few more things. Well, we were in the letter, so we'll just quickly go through the
We
letter.
can quickly finish off, I think
So-
we're paragraph 9 and then the stormwater, so.
Number 9 was about an electric vehicle make-ready space. We weren't proposing any new spaces, so that's why we were not proposing to add an EV space and would ask for that design waiver. As it comes to the stormwater, the site is, there's a wall on the western side, there's a wall on the northern side, again, looking at A2, and the building on the east of this area that the modular building is within, that's all lower. This parking lot play area is lower than everything else around it and is walled. The water can only go one place, and that is to Monroe. This is being put entirely on top of existing impervious surfaces. There are no changes to the stormwater runoff patterns, to the amount of runoff, none of it. It will be identical in how it operates. The water, like I said, can't run on any neighboring property. It can only come out to Monroe. And then I think just to number 11, there's no gutters proposed on the building. And there would therefore be no roof leaders directing water anywhere. But if they were to decide to add a gutter at some point in the future and they put a roof leader in, it wouldn't impact any neighboring property, right? Because it's just going to splash on the existing pavement and come to Monroe. And then number 12 we talked about, which was bathrooms and the utilities to the building being simply electric, and that's it. And I think there was one other item to touch on within the planner's letter, unless she tells me that there's more than that, and that was regarding street trees. You rightly point out in your memo that the power company has mutilated the trees along Grand Avenue. It's a pretty big line set that runs up and down Grand Avenue. There's a wire that runs pretty low, so they come in and they crop the trees. If we put in a street tree underneath there It's only a matter of time before they do that again. I don't think it's really safe or appropriate to put the tree knowing that it's going to grow right up into those lines, considering what they are.
There are
in that
many
space.
tree species that you can plant under wires now. We have many species that you can plant under wires.
You could work in conjunction with the Shade Tree Commission, and they could help you out. We do this all the time
All the
with
time.
our
So, 'cause
applicants.
this particular set has a pretty low running wire on it. There's a lot hanging on these poles, and with the separations they have, that one wire is running.
So there is looks like it's telephone. That's a heavy, low
Yeah, it looks like a-
wire. And it's only probably 12 feet off the ground. I think that's the minimum.
Yeah, it's,
This is gonna be tough, but I mean, we could certainly do any of the cherries or the small ornamentals.
Is it just one planting spot that we're talking about?
No.
it's, I think two. That was long, grand.
Grand. Two trees are required.
2 trees.
Okay. Do you have anything further to add to your testimony?
Excuse me, sir?
Yeah, I mean, so-
My suggestion in reference to the trees, if we should pass this, is that you work hand in hand with the Shade Tree Commission in reference to the placement and type of trees. Because what we're saying here in Asbury is that it's important that the foliage is somewhat similar, and we don't want to change the demographics of the neighborhood, okay? So just to frown a little because you don't get the tree you want, don't cut off your finger, despite, just work with it.
Yeah, no, and I think that's fine. I think, just looking at what was the street trees around in the area, there were some, big sycamores and all, quite frankly, the trees that were all street trees around there were pretty tall, and, that wire,
And
like
we're
I said,
moving
is
away from
pretty
those sycamores
low.
anyway.
We hardly
Which-
plant sycamores anymore. Very rarely, and only in the right placements. Yeah.
You don't like having the bark everywhere?
Work with us, don't work against us.
What's that?
Work with us.
Yeah, no, certainly here to do that. I hope you can see that we're, making efforts. Right.
Okay.
Questions for me?
Any further questions for Mr. Nusser? Board professionals?
Oh, I have a question. Do you see the need for any type of roof covering as the kids are walking from the main building to the modular
No,
situation?
no.
What about when it's raining and it's snowing and it's icing and all that fun stuff?
I think the way you heard that the programming worked within the space, it would just be skipped for the day if there was, if it's snowing, if it's icy, if it's not, not appropriate to go outside, a little bit of rain.
But you can't guarantee that, Mr. Nusser.
No, I can't guarantee that, but that's, the school isn't going to put the kids in a position where it opens the school, quite frankly, to liability, right? They're going to do what's safe for the kids because it's in the kids' best interest and in their best interest. So, I don't see a need for a covered canopy going across. Yes, the kids could put if it's raining, the kids can throw their coats on and head over if that's how they decide to work it. But, I don't think there's a need to put a roofed connection.
That is a minor expenditure, okay, for the children. And sitting here, you might not want to hear it as a minority. I hate to hear of let's cut corners when it comes down to giving our students what is best for them.
And one of the reasons, another reason why we moved the modular home closer to the school is that the distance is only like 20 feet, where before they would have to walk all the way across the parking lot to do that. So hopefully that alleviates a lot of that. So it's a very
20-foot
close.
canopy is not that expensive.
Oh, I don't know.
I know.
Just keep in mind as the board that it's going to trigger other variances. Put a canopy of any type, because now if you're connecting the trailer to the building, you have other issues that have to be considered.
That would change the usage of the building.
And I would,
Okay.
I also point out, go back to where we started with this being a fairly typical installation at a school. When this goes in, I think every school that I've been associated with where we've done modular buildings like this, there's not a cover to get to those spaces, that the kids are going outside, whether they're classroom buildings or whatever, that the programming of that building is that they're not covered, they're walking out to those spaces. So, end of the day, this is a typical method of installation, if you will.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Mr. Nusser? All right, let's open it up to the public for Mr. Nusser. Please ask questions directly related to his testimony. Go to the back,
You need to
please.
go to the mic.
To the mic.
Identify yourself, please, and give us your address.
Good evening. My name is Marilyn Burney, Berney. I live at 507 Sewell Avenue, full-time. First, I just want to say that we love having the schools in the neighborhood. Every morning I hear the drums and the cheers going into your school. It's phenomenal. So
You're making a comment, we need a question.
my question is, there was a lot of talk about the electric into the trailer. Is there going to be a backup generator? And if so, what would the hours of that running? Because I'm concerned with the noise level from a generator.
No, there's no generator proposed as part of the application.
Okay. And then my next question in relation to the need for the space of this trailer was, I believe it was testified that the building can hold up to 360 students, and now there's 316. This grant that's being used for this trailer, which is phenomenal that you've gotten it, is there any way to use that grant to take a portion, has there been a study, is there any way to take a portion of the interior of the building to make this media center to be incorporated within the building, since you're not servicing yet 360 students? And would it be possible to service 360 students if the media center, if the grant was used to have the media center housed within the building, alleviating the need for the kids to go outside to another classroom?
That is a terrific question for the
Qualified to
applicant.
answer that question?
I am not, that's why I said for the applicant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good.
That's really a question for Ms. Pratt.
Yes.
Wait, Ms. Pratt, we have to finish with Mr. Nusser. Like I said, strictly his testimony. Does anybody in the public strictly have questions for his testimony? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Nusser. All right, let's bring up Ms. Pratt again, and then maybe she can answer.
Just state your name for the...
Denisha Pratt.
Yeah, you're being recalled, you're still under oath, you're fine to answer the question.
Okay, so just regarding the study, no study was done in terms of trying to outfit our building to have the media center, because we know that the space that we currently occupy, we need all of those locations for the 360 students that we will be at within the next 2 years. So there won't be available space to have an additional, to outfit any media center in the space that we currently have.
Okay. Thank you.
Next witness?
Mark Lieber, planner.
Okay. Sir, please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
Please state your name for the record and spell it.
Hi, good evening. Mark with a C, Lieber, L-E-B-E-R.
N-A-R-C.
Yes.
Lieber is?
L-E-B like Brian, E-R.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Lieber, whom are you employed?
I'm with East Point Engineering in Marlboro.
Okay, you describe your profession,
Sure.
your profession, I'm sorry.
I graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in Civil Engineering from Drexel University. I also completed the part-time MBA program at Rutgers Graduate School and was licensed in 2003 as an engineer, 2005 as a planner, and 2006 I completed the Certified Municipal Engineering Certificate program. And in 2007 I was appointed as a member of Howell Township's Planning Board. I have worked on both the public and private sides of this business, testified before numerous boards, both planning and zoning, and I'm a qualified expert.
Thank you, Mr. Lieber. We
Thank you so
accept
much.
credentials.
Planner in the state of New Jersey.
Yes, and it is current.
Is in good standing?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Lieber, could you please describe the variances, starting with the use variances that are needed by the applicant here for the application?
Sure. There's two components here. One is a D2 variance, which is due to an expansion of a non-conforming use. You heard earlier that the school is a pre-existing, legally existing non-conforming use in the zone, but this is considered an expansion of that use. Just to back up for a second, this type of a use is usually associated with either a higher density or intensification of the site use. And I'm going to discuss during this presentation why that's not a concern for this type of a request.
The other variances? The question was the extent of the variances.
Well, describe the other variance.
Yeah, the second variance is that this type of a structure is not permitted on the property.
Amongst other, any other bulk?
There are a couple of comments about fencing. There was
Design exceptions?
yeah, and the parking as well.
That's fine.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Excellent. Gentleman on the board is 100% correct. In fact, this is not uncommon for public school to have a need for a modular classroom structure. In this case, it's a media center. So we're not reinventing the wheel here. I'm sure we've all seen or at some point during our school age time had classes in this type of a structure. I myself did. Regarding the D2 variance for the expansion of non-conforming use, and the floor area comment that appears in the report, we're not increasing the activity on this property. The school is already existing. This is not a freestanding separate principal use either. We're not going to trigger the need for additional parking by adding this structure or the need for additional municipal services. So I don't see any detriment in granting that use. It's more of a technical item in nature. And frankly, looking at the site itself, and speaking of site suitability, the use already exists on the property. There's a building on the corner, you heard earlier, 5 stories. It's already operating as a school, so there's no doubt that this site can accommodate a school use. You also heard earlier that this structure is needed to address space constraints in the school. And again, that's not uncommon. And I'll explain why this is a very good thing, because my opinion is educating children is probably the most important thing we could do in a society. So when you look at the purposes of zoning, which is codified in municipal land use law, even Goal A encourages municipal action to guide the appropriate use of land which promotes the public health, safety, morals, and welfare. Certainly the education of children is important in this respect. So if this portable media center helps this school do a better job at what they're doing now, then 100% this should be built. In the municipal land use law, there are protections for this type of use. This is known as an inherently beneficial use. And an inherently beneficial use is simply a use that is generally accepted to promote the general welfare of the public. Similar to a hospital, a school certainly promotes general welfare, and it brings various benefits to the community. Again, you heard earlier that this is an enhancement to the program that's being offered, the education that's available at the building. That's a positive. Now, usually land use applications come before the board and there's a lot of focus on, well, what are the negatives? It's extremely difficult to find negatives here. And I'll explain why. We're not impeding on air, light, and open space. In fact, this application doesn't even involve anything that constitutes a nuisance. We're not increasing traffic. There's no impact on stormwater management. We're not even cutting down any trees. This is going in an existing paved asphalt parking lot. There's no environmental permitting required. We're not dealing with wetlands. We're not in a flood hazard area. We're not dealing with stream corridors. There's really no detriments other than the fact that we're placing a structure in an existing parking lot. I did hear the comments about how they're going to get back and forth to the structure. From my experience, kids are resilient. I mean, we don't put domes over playgrounds. We don't put domes over recess areas. If there's inclement weather, walk outside with an umbrella. It's 20 feet away from the building. They'll be inside this classroom. And then when the class is over, they'll go back to the other building. So I really don't think that's a concern. I think it happens every day, everywhere. And it's not really a zoning issue. As far as promoting the goals of planning, we certainly are doing something that enhances what's being offered at the school, which would also fall under the municipal land use law goal A, which was stated earlier. We're providing the adequate air, light, and open space I stated earlier. This type of use is located on Monroe Avenue, which that parking lot is set lower than the parking lot behind. So it's really only visible from the street in front. I don't think that's a major concern. Other than that, I just don't see any substantial detriment to the public good. I don't have any doubt that the property will have an issue accommodating the use. We're not increasing any traffic. We're not creating any new nuisances or any of that nature. This is strictly an enhancement to offer really another piece of the education at the school.
Do you believe it's a minimal intrusion into the master plan and/or the zoning ordinance?
Very minimal.
Can't cover the negative criteria,
Thank you.
even though it's an inherently beneficial use.
Correct. Thank you.
Anything further you'd like to add to your testimony?
Only if there's questions. With the fence, I understand the issue there with the license possibly being needed along the front of the property. It is an existing condition, but I agree with you 100% about the issue.
The standard condition of any approval, either planning or zoning, is if there's an encroachment, you have to go to the mayor and council, get permission to continue the encroachment.
Don't think there was any other item, unless you have a question or two.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Lieber? Or professionals? No. Anyone in the public for Mr. Lieber's testimony? Thank you, Mr. Lieber.
Thank you.
I don't have any further witnesses.
I do have one other question, I'm sorry, I don't mean to belabor this. But to
For Mr.
her,
Lieber?
no, for probably the,
Ms. Pratt?
no,
For Ms. Pratt?
Ms. Nusser? Mr. Nusser?
Nusser.
Oh, Mr. No.
To the part, the woman in the back. About the generator.
Yes.
I know it doesn't have one, but does it have a HVAC?
Yes.
And
Yes.
what's the noise decibel of that? Like, will it be more than what the building is, or
No, no.
it'll be?
I mean, it's like it's a,
Like a window unit almost.
yeah.
Okay, just
A
making
lar-
sure,
a large
'cause
window
I was
unit,
thinking
and
about it
again,
after.
it's facing into the building and not towards the neighbors.
Just making sure.
So, yeah. I mean, obviously, it would be required and would meet all the state noise code requirements,
It's not a big unit.
but it's not a big unit.
I know, I'm just,
So, anything for Mr. Scaria?
No, just to briefly,
Anybody want to ask this gentleman a question about what he just testified to? No? Okay, thank you.
no, I just
Final
want to,
statement?
yeah, just briefly conclude. Again, based upon the three witnesses, I think, again, the school is a pre-existing use. It's been there for quite some time. I think it's clear from the testimony that one, the school doesn't have the space, and they're using the opportunity from the federal grant to enhance a library media center instead of walking down to the library. And I think based upon the testimony, this is a very positive use to the school. It's going to enhance the education of the children. As Mr. Lieber testified, it is inherently beneficial, and we want to do what's best for the children. We've done things throughout the application, and this has been a while the process to do anything possible to mitigate the negative criteria by moving it closer to the school. We will comply as testified with underground wires, restriping the basketball court. There's going to be no parking in that area. Anything we can do to mitigate the negative criteria as much as possible, make this a positive use, enhance the quality of education of the school. As Mr. Lieber said, I also remember going to, when I had speech therapy lessons, because I used to stutter, I went to a trailer and the school to do that. So I have memories of that too as well. So it's very common to have this. So I just think based upon all the testimony, I would kindly request that the application be granted. And I thank the board and the professionals for your questions and interest in the application. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Correa. I think we need to open it up, though, for general comment
Yeah, general
from the audience. Anybody who would like to make either a comment in favor or against this application, please go to the mic, state your name and address for the record.
I have to have you sworn in since you're going to actually testify.
You get 4 minutes to make your comment.
Oh, I'll be much shorter than that.
Please raise
Again,
your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm testimony about to give in this matter, with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And once again, please restate your name for the record and your address.
Sure. It's Marilyn Burney, 507 Sewell Avenue.
Thank you, thank you.
So the two requests, I guess, comments that I have that might be made to this application is, one, that there will be no generator as a condition, and two, that if and when the school ever closes, which I do hope it never closes, that this trailer be removed. Because it's all too common that things go out of business in this town or anywhere, and they leave their trash, and then things become decrepit, and they start rusting, and they just sit there forever and ever. So those are my only two comments.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else, either in favor or against this application? Please state your name and address for the record.
Okay, please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name for the record and spell it, and give us your address, please.
My name is Rosie Oriano, Rocio-Reano, and my address is 12 Fieldwood Avenue in Asbury Park.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I'm here to represent the parents of the Hope Academy, and I have 4 daughters. 3 of them graduated from that school. I have one just currently in there in 6th grade. And when I hear about this library, for me it was, a big and a great idea. Because, a lot of kids, they want to get a book or get something in the computer. And it's really hard for many parents to bring the kids to the library in Asbury Park or in another town. So I think it's a great opportunity for them to learn about the library, how they work, how they have it in there, especially the youngest kids. Did you know that they are not available to go? So if they have it one in the campus, they will be wonderful. And we just asking for the opportunity to have it in there. And like they say it, and this is one of the concerns of the lady, this can be mobile. When the school closes, the house never does. They can remove it from there, maybe bring it in another place where the school is gonna move. I mean, they can go with them. And the other thing is the space, or the other thing that they're concerned about, to the kids, they're gonna go on the rain or when this is snowing. I think they're gonna use the same tactics that they use like the recess, that they're gonna do inside. Like it's raining, of course they can go outside to play. So it's the same thing if they have 30 minutes for the library, so they can go to the library, so they can do something else inside. And it's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the public for comment?
Move to close. Oh, wait, no.
Wait, no, I think, does anybody else want to make a comment?
Kids.
Who's going to, is one person going to speak or all four? You're going to speak?
Yeah, I'm going to speak first and then Sean.
Okay, so why don't you raise your right hand? You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I absolutely do.
Okay. State your name for the record, spell it, and give us your address, please.
My name is Valdano Laborde. That's Valdano, last name Laborde, Labord. And my address is 23 Atkins Avenue, Asbury Park, New Jersey.
Thank you. Go right ahead.
I just want to say that having this mobile library will help us literacy-wise and research-wise. And I know that some students aren't, they don't have the time or they're not able to walk across the street to go to the other library. So I think having a library on campus would help greatly with that. And also, so there's some students who don't have a computer at home, so the library can help them with that as well. They can help them have like a device on campus to help them with anything they need, like homework, research, a project if they need for any other classes that they have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name for the record, spell it, and tell us your address, please.
Estrella Sandoval, Estrella, last name Sandoval, Sandoval. I live in 1513 Banks Avenue.
Do you think you could speak up a little bit louder?
Estrella Sandoval, Estrella, last name Sandvol. I think a library on the campus will help. Even though I'm leaving this year, I think a library will help the younger kids, especially for like research papers and projects, since they don't have a lot of books, I think. And some kids, they don't get to walk all the way to the library, so especially because their parents don't let them. So I think a library on the campus would help a lot with that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I can't tell.
It might be easier to hear them.
Sure.
But they might not get picked up on the mic. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name for the record, spell it, and give us your address.
Zoe Martinez, Zoe, last name Martinez, 12 Dewitt, Asbury Park, New Jersey.
Thank you.
I used to go to school there 2 years ago. I really liked, they have like a small library, but it's abandoned. And when I left, I know I left a little side library as my 8th grade graduation gift. I really liked that there. But I know when I was little, the school gave us books. I didn't like the books they gave. I knew I would always want to go to the library to get a book I knew I liked. If the school has a library, I know I don't have to travel as far. Because for me, my mom and dad are working. Nobody could take me to the library. And sometimes they didn't trust for me to walk to the library by myself. So I know if the school has a library, they're like, oh, I trust for my kid to go from one floor to another. There's trusted adults. So I feel like the school having a library expands their education for the little kids because they're reading the stuff they know how to read and the stuff they want to learn about. And also them having a library also provides like the little kids, let's say kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, more opportunities to like, oh, I know this stuff, I want to learn more. They could start learning 3rd grade stuff, 4th grade stuff, 5th grade stuff, you know, higher education for them. We don't want to like close the education down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else for comment in the public? All right, I make a motion to close public comment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
So let me ask Jack, should we first vote on whether this is considered a beneficial use? No? No?
Schools are pretty much inherent.
But this is a library, not a school.
Well, it's part of a school. It's a school use. The library is a school use. It's on school property. Yeah, it's pretty much an inherent beneficial use. Yeah. And I have a number of conditions that I wrote down if the board wants me to give them. Everybody's going to need.
Well, I think first we need the deliberation and then we'll decide on the motion.
It's up to you. It's entirely up to you.
So let's start with the deliberation. Anybody for comment on the board?
Comment? Yeah, sure, I'll start. First to the students, thank you. I actually asked Chris, could I ask the students to speak? And he said no, but you took care of it for me anyway. And like I said, a lot of times we need to, as adults, we need to shut up and listen to y'all. So you told us what you needed, okay? To Hope Academy, you've been around a long time. You've done a great service to the community of Asbury Park. And just the fact that we see parents here with their children, knowing that this is the children that we're serving, hey, you've done a great job, and I hope you will continue to do a great job, okay? And then Ms. Pratt, my fifth grade teacher's name was Ms. Pratt, but that was 60-something years ago, so I can't talk. Okay, but from my point of view, it would only enhance the education of the young people, okay? And I'm for enhanced education, especially in these turbulent times that we live in with that idiot in the White House.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I said it. Okay. So I hope we can go forward with this. I hope that the board votes that let you have what you have asked for. But to your lawyer, I do want to see that electrical line underground, and I would also like to see a reconfiguration of the basketball court.
Whatever conditions you will comply with.
Okay, thank you.
I am also in favor of this application. I've also had the opportunity to get close to the Hope Academy school, and I've always been impressed with their curriculum and the students that they are graduating from that property. So anything we can do to continue the higher and better education, I'm all for.
Anyone else? Okay. Hearing no other deliberation, do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve Hope Academy with the following changes, which will be explained by our esteemed attorney.
I'll second.
Here's what I have, gleaned from the comments. Fence encroachments or any other into the city right away need council approval. Circulation plan for the rear parking lot will be prepared and submitted to the board engineer for review and approval. And it will also depict flow arrows painted on the lot surface. The electrical service to be located underground. Okay. Reconfiguration of the basketball court so as not to conflict with the proposed modular unit. Two street trees to be planted along Grand Avenue based on input from the Shade Tree Commission for the type and so on. Representation that there's not going to be any exterior generator on the property. And the other one might be, it's up to you, if the school closes, that the trailer would be removed or modular unit would be removed.
At the time of closing.
Yeah, when it closes, yeah. That's what I have.
Yep.
What's one? Hold on. Oh, okay, stage vacates of 2. Oh, okay. According to the planner's report, on Sewell Avenue, 1 additional tree is required. Monroe, 2 additional trees are required along that frontage. And then Grand, 2, so it's 2, and 1, so it's 5 trees, according to the report. That's what the report says. It's up to you if that's what you're going to report.
Mr. Scuria, are you in agreement there?
Yes, we would agree to that.
Okay? That's what I have. So with those conditions, they're accurate. We got a motion and a second. Roll call.
Daniel Harris,
Yes.
Russell Lewis.
Yes.
Jill Potter,
Yes.
Natalie Passerini,
Yes.
JJ Hall,
Yes.
Chairman Avaloni.
Yes.
Approved.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Can I make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Thank you.
Who's second? All in favor? None opposed? Adjourned?
Aye.